Wicked, a very highly anticipated musical based on the stage play that serves as a prequel to Wizard of Oz. It's finally out. And frankly, it is a film that I repeat myself a lot on this channel, but this is a film that just didn't really intrigue me. Big fan of the Wizard of Oz, but wasn't really sure about how this film, the way it was presented. But I do think this film might surprise some people. But for its worth, even though I do have some critiques of this film, I do think this Wicked is a film that's fun for what it is. And let me explain why.
This wicked witch.
Don't be afraid. It's the wizard who should be afraid of me.
The wizard that there is or was is ever gonna bring me down.
So Wicked is a musical film from Universal Studios that serves as a prequel to Wizard of Oz that kind of delves into the origin story of the Wicked Witch of the West. How did she become wicked? The question is asked, are people born wicked, or is wickedness thrusted upon people? And despite what the marketing might imply, this is in fact part one of part two. So just bear that in mind, that this tells really only half the story. I'm assuming part two comes out next year. But yeah, I saw the play years ago as a kid, and I don't really remember much of it except for maybe the twist having to do with the witch's father. I don't know why that stuck with me. And beyond that, I never really made an effort to really re-engage with the story. So I kind of came into this film kind of as a newcomer. I have to say, I think this film on a visual aesthetic level really does a good job relaying, paying tribute to the original MGM film with its color palette, set design, props. I mean, it still has like a tint of modernism, I guess you can say, but I think it gets pretty damn close to mimicking that colorful palette that the original film was well known for. Very fantastical, colorful, and playful. And that really comes especially into play with some of the musical numbers in this film. I mean, there's one in particular in the library that I think was just so visually playful and just fun to watch that it kind of shows that this is what you can do with a musical in the film medium versus what you can do on a stage play. Granted, vice versa, I'm sure there's things you can do on the stage that you can't be able to do on film, but I think Wicked does a good job of showing, hey, how do you do a musical but now using cinematography and editing and all these visual effects to really communicate that. But yeah, somebody that's not really into musicals, I think most of the songs in this film were good or catchy. I performed really well, fun to watch, like I said as before. Now, all the performances in this film are strong. One that stood out to me was, the main star of this film, Cynthia Erivo, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And I'm gonna be honest with you, both her and Ariana Grande, I had an axe to grind with coming into this film. I think Ariana Grande is insufferable. Based off the few things I've seen in the press about Cynthia, she kind of seems a little, I don't know how you say arrogant, but I think she does a really good job bringing out the nuances in the character that she's playing, of a character who's in pain, who wants to be defensive and is trying to be standoffish, but really does want to be accepted and loved for who she is. But Cynthia really brings it to life more than I thought that anyone could, and I think she's terrific. She deserves all the due credit for her performance in this film. I say this as somebody that, like I said, I really had an axe to grind with going into this movie, where I was kind of actively rooting against her. However, I have a couple of critiques with the film, mainly to do really just the narrative of the story. Overall, the narrative is good. I liked it. I enjoyed it. It's funny and dark, when it can be, and I was totally engaged from beginning to end. But it's just kind of some nitpicks. I mean, first of all, I think the politics of this film could have been delved into a little bit more in depth. Essentially, there's a subplot going on in this film that animals, talking animals specifically in the land of Oz, right? There's no such thing as animals that are domesticated. They're being persecuted, caged, so they lose the ability to speak. So it's kind of like an allegory for racism or prejudice, which I totally get. And one kind of reason we get is that one of the characters who are, conspiring on this persecution of these sentient animals is because, well, Oz just needs a common enemy for the sake of order, right? Creating order and social cohesion. But visually, that's not what I'm seeing in the film. When we start off in this film, it seems like everyone's kind of getting along. It's very utopian, actually. So why this plan has to come into effect to put all these animals in cage and become slaves essentially. It just didn't really make sense. And I'm not one of those people who are trying to like nitpick and be like, well, what are the tax policies of this society? I'm not, that's not what I'm concerned with. But it kind of just begged the question, like, okay, but why? And like, why do they need a common enemy? And secondly, maybe part two solves this, because like I said, it's been years since I've seen the musical. I totally forget the story. But I really don't care for this revisionist type of fiction that's been popular, or at least in my lifetime, where you try to make good evil and evil bad, which to me is not nuanced. It's just immoral, I guess. I don't know. I think there's a way you could do it, I think, right? I mean, the first one that comes to mind, even though it's a film I think a lot of people do hate, is Rob Zombie's Halloween. Love it or hate it, leaving that aside, I think the film does a good job showing a character who, by the end of the film, is an evil psychopath who kills, because he loves killing. But in the beginning, you do see like this tragic upbringing where he's abused, a missing father figure, broken family, etc. And you do understand and sympathize with the character. Like, okay, like that's why he became the way to be. Another film recently would be The Joker, or at least the first Joker film from Todd Phillips. Same thing, very sympathetic character until the end at least. And then in the end, he just becomes a kind of a psychopath. So for Wicked, I think that's what I kind of want to see, with the Wicked Witch. It's like, okay, well, no, she's wicked, but surely, she wasn't just born that way. She becomes that. But instead, I think the story is leaning towards is, no, there's actually nothing bad about her at all. All the good guys are evil people, and the supposedly evil person is actually incredibly righteous. And I just think it's kind of cheap. It's kind of like just subversive. I only like subversive in that sense. And in spite of those critiques I had, I think Wicked, it's still a good time to watch. It's a great musical if you just love musicals. Fun, colorful, great performance in music all around. Nothing really too much to complain about. I want to give Wicked 3.5 stars out of 5.
Don't be afraid. I'm not afraid. It's the wizard who should be afraid of me.
Hit the like button, hit subscribe. I'll see you next time.